Today on Riffs, Beards, and Gear, we check out the Loki Bass 2 bass MIDI instrument plugin from Solemn Tones. Solemn Tones make what I would consider probably the best bang for your buck MIDI instrument plugins that I have come across. Bass got you covered, guitar got you covered, drums got you covered. With just a few simple plugins from Solemn Tones, you can now basically create your own record, which I wish these kinds of things were available back when I started this whole thing back in like 2010, but they weren't. But you do have access to them, and today we're going to be talking about the Loki Bass 2 MIDI bass plugin from Solemn Tones. Now, before we go any further, this is a sponsored video, as Solemn Tones has asked me to show you Loki Bass 2. However, all thoughts and opinions are mine. Now, the Loki Bass 2 plugin builds on what has come before it, most notably the first Mark I version of the Loki Bass and also the Kraken hybrid bass. Solemn Tones actually listened to their customer base and took a lot of the notes that they received in general for the previous Loki Bass plugin as well as the Kraken bass plugin and just dumped all of that new knowledge and wisdom into Loki Bass 2, and it's good. It's real good. Now we will get to the nitty gritty in just a second, but first I will show you what the Loki Bass 2 is capable of in the context of a mix. I will mix this as I normally would to taste in the context of a bass, guitar, drum mix, and yeah, let's go for the chugga chuggas, and then we'll come back and we're going to talk about it. So the Loki Bass 2 is a sampled Dingwall NG2 bass through a very expensive recording chain, and it includes a DI as well as 5 mix-ready tones. So if you just want to grab and go, you can do that. If you want to shape your own tone using the included DI, you can do that as well. And I also want to reiterate that no third-party plugins or contact is required to run Loki Bass 2. This is its own standalone thing. Fire it up and go. Also, once you get into it, you will find 20 different articulations, including slap, if you want to get funky. So I am in the mix that you just heard, and I'm going to solo my bass track and let you hear the sound that I came up with using Loki Bass 2. Pretty raunchy. It's pretty it's tough. That's a tough tone. As you can see, I used the Time Wizard preset, and then I did shape it with a little bit of EQ from Fab Filter using a Pro Q3. That's basically all I did with the tone. I had to carve it as I normally would with any other bass track. However, if I take off all of that, here's the naked Loki Bass 2 bass tone. Still beefy, it's tough, it's gritty, but it cuts. This tone is really awesome. Let's check out some of the other tones before we move on. Let's go to the clean DI. Next, we'll go to the Loki Glass 1. Let's See, next is Grindmeister. Next is Loki Bass 2. Chonky Wall. And last is Time Wizard, which we heard at the top of this video. Okay, so let's dive into Loki Bass 2 a little bit. Now, if I click on info, this is going to give you all your key switch information. And in the top right corner of this window, we can see which one is active. Okay, so we have all of our usual suspects. We have thumb slap, finger pluck dead, finger pluck open, sliding mode, alt pick, down pick, up pick, alt mute, etc., etc. All of the usual stuff is here if you're familiar with any MIDI bass instrument at all. This one is just a little bit more deep than a typical MIDI bass plugin. Okay, so next let's go into the playing section. We have a multitude of different options. We have bend intensity, decay intensity, tuning. If we're trying to match a pre-recorded track and it's a little bit sharp or a little bit flat, we can account for that with the tuning fader, which I am not going to touch. String noise, left hand noise, and mute noise, all is included with the human error if I engage the human error. And you know what? Why would I want human error? Well, because you're going to add some realism to your bass track depending on the type of material and genre. Typically, I leave this off in something more heavy. However, if you're using something light and using the DI, for example, this is something that you may want to play with. Next, we have the force slap. We can turn this on, and we have various modes. I don't know how to program a slap versus like a picked thing. However, it's there if you needed to, if you want to get your slap on. Coming back out of the playing section and going into the tone section, we have our low, mid, high, and air, and overall output, and we have enforce. Now notice with my tone, I did have enforce engaged. Now enforce is going to add clean low end to give you more consistency in your low end. If you want some, if you're using detuned guitars or anything like that, this is something you're going to want to pay attention to. Let's go through these various modes right now. This is adding those low lows, that subharmonic content that just is very, very clean and very nice. And this is basically a shortcut to a trick that a lot of metal producers and mix engineers use with a normally played bass track. They will plug in and plot some MIDI to get that clean low end. This is saving you all of that time and effort with the enforced control, which I really, really dig. And there we have Loki Bass 2 from Solemn Tones. This, at the time of this filming, is 89 bucks. I think that is an amazing deal considering all of the options, and the enforced control alone is incredible. I can't communicate how much of a time saver that enforced control is when you're in like a detuned, dense metal mix. It's really, really cool and something that I wish all MIDI bass plugins had. All the pickable links down below in the description. You've been wonderful. I've been Fluff. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. If you liked the video you just watched, please consider subscribing. And if you want to further support me and what I do, consider using some of the affiliate links down below in the description of this video. Go on over to Sweetwater, buy yourself something, and help me out at the same time. It's a win-win for both of us.